Thanks for listening to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Brian and Scott. Don't you hate it when your favorite band gets rich and successful and forgets how to write good music? So do we. Let's check it out. Hopefully the fall is upon us is not going to happen right this moment. You know,
yeah, I know, man. I'm ready to turn R2-D2 off in the studio. Really, R2 is the third podcaster.
Yeah, that's true. Been here whirring gently in the background for years now. Yes. At this point,
it's really kind of a signature of our production
style. That's true. It really is. I think more podcasters get on that. You know, the whirring distraction in the background. That's just good. You know, people need to be entertained when they're trying to listen to a podcast.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully, the temperature stays below the century mark today. Hopefully, by next week, the planet becomes habitable again.
It's always a bummer, man, when you get like to be October, like mid-October, and it's still like 95, 97 now. It's like, what the hell, man? That's this is the fall, for God's sake.
That's right. I'm trying to ramp up for Halloween here.
That's dude. Halloween is your butter zone. That is your spot. You know what I mean?
My butter zone. Well, that's kind of an exciting. You know what? I'm gonna.
That's where your happiness lies. You know?
Yes, it does. In the darkness,
and goblins and death and destruction.
Yes,
and mayhem. Yep. Oh yes, we have in the studio a skull pumpkin just to celebrate Halloween.
Yes, with it's a pumpkin made of skulls with red glowing eyes
in the traditional way.
Yes,
the way that pumpkins were traditionally done. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Before they got all PC,
cobbled together with lost souls.
Yeah, that's exactly what
the lost souls of former students.
Exactly.
It's the souls of students who didn't practice.
All of my students are still alive. Come on, they didn't practice.
I know. Well, I didn't say they were. They didn't say they were dead. They're just trapped in the pumpkin.
That's their souls right there.
Yeah, right. It's a tornado.
Well, then
souls.
Aren't you just giving them a reason why they're not practicing? Like, well, I was totally going to practice, but my soul's gone. So,
dude, that happens so often.
I know, it's all the time. Like, well, I was going to do it though. I was going to sit and practice.
all
week, and then my soul got taken. So
witchcraft.
What am I going to? I had to sit and play Minecraft all day.
I would rather they played witchcraft all day. That would be so much cooler.
Witchblade. There you go. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Nice. Yeah. So.
But you know what? Who actually, much like our students, decided to like tap out early? A lot of classic bands.
Well, yes, and not, of course, most of our students don't.
No, that's
yes.
No, actually, most of the students do. Someone's was saying the other day, like, "Oh, my students aren't practicing." Well, that just means they're a student,
right?
That's all that means. There's no judgment. It's just what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, people have responsibilities, so it's yeah.
But that just means their priorities are out of whack.
Right, I mean, guitar should. Well, you know what?
Their children can find a way to feed themselves. Come on.
I've told all of my students who are still in, elementary, junior high, high school, right? They can tell, their teachers can call me and I'll explain. Hey, junior's got guitar lessons, all right?
I don't know. Time it's not as important as you think.
Right, what's with all this, algebra stuff?
What's that fancy book learner ever going to do for you?
Yeah, that's right.
Play guitar and eat corn trucks, and that's all you need.
Get good.
That's right. Get done.
That's right. So I don't know what these other teachers are thinking, right? Kids got guitar lessons.
That's true.
All right, priorities.
That's our priorities when we were that age.
Right, and we turned out rad.
It did amazing. I remember at one time when I was 15, I was doing football and martial arts and baseball and guitar all at the same time. I don't know how I managed that, but
nice.
It was every day of the week until 9 p.m.
That's why you can swing a guitar around like a katana.
Exactly. I just remember thinking it was important, so it wasn't like it took a back seat no matter what other stuff I was doing. It's okay, that's just going to be, I'm going to make time for this. And then eventually I had to just weed out the baseball and weed out the football and eventually weeded out the martial arts too. And I just said, nope, I'm going to sit here and focus on this. This is the only thing that matters.
Man, I miss being young, and having energy to do multiple things. That was fun.
Yeah,
that was great.
It was pretty fun. I don't know. It's funny nowadays. I have energy, but it's one of those things where it's you got to try and put it where it can count the most. You know what I mean? Which in this case is guitar and building a business and that kind of stuff. It's that's where your energy goes.
All the energy goes into that.
And the podcasting and promoting bands and
X-Aegis
and stuff.
Of course.
And Project and that's and our teaching practices and stuff. Yeah, it's all the boring crap. Investing.
Adulting.
Yeah, exactly. All those kind of fun things. But anyway,
happens to the best of us.
Let me welcome everyone. Welcome to the Rock Guitar Confidential podcast with Brian and Scott. Brian, today's topic. Yes, he reads out the hastily
I'm
scribbled
getting
page.
I'm getting the paper from our assistant. Today's topic: bands that lost their edge with success.
Oh, this is such a classic story. And then the first band that immediately, as soon as I even read that, the first band that jumped straight to my head is Metallica. Like, Metallica was going strong, and then all of a sudden they have massive success, and it's like they just fell off a cliff. You know what I mean? It's like the hunger, the want to got taken away.
It's like they got crushed by a bus.
Yeah, exactly. Or a table if you talk to James.
Wah, 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 wah.
But I mean, it was the precipitous fall. It was just incredible.
Yeah, the Black Album was terrible.
Well, I mean, that was the height of their success, though. You know what I mean? That was when they pinnacled. That was like the top. That was the zenith of their success. But that's, you can see right there, though, as soon as they hit that, it was just like, the gas was out and the rocket and just went straight back to the ground.
There's a great interview out with Jason Newsted that I read recently where they're talking about obviously his time in Metallica, right?
That's what people would
of course. Yeah, I mean, he's done other stuff. Well, and I guess he got kicked out of the band because he had a side project, and Metallica had a no side projects.
Oh, okay.
Lars and James had a no side projects rule.
Oh, okay.
Which I guess is, I think Kirk released like an EP a couple of years ago.
It's just a solo album, though. It's not like he was like starting another band or something. It's just
I guess it would count as kind of a side project, but I mean, at this point, who cares?
Yeah,
but,
they're not going to kick Kirk out of the band at 40 years in. You know what I mean? It's like.
So Newsted's talking about how corny, quote, corny, he thought Enter Sandman was. And I just thought, yeah, James, exactly.
Well, you mean Jason. Yeah,
Jason, I'm sorry.
Maybe
Jason
James felt that way. I don't know. I don't know. But man, I'm sure that the money in his bank account doesn't feel that way, though.
Oh, totally. I think he also says something to that effect. Anyway, everybody go out
whatever homes he owns are welcome to Enter Sandman, almost certainly. You know what I mean?
All of his homes with like helipads,
yeah, exactly.
Golf courses.
His ability to play with these other bands that don't make any money, to do that and be that his job is because of that. But to own art galleries and crap, that's all because of Enter Sandman. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Ulrich. He's the art gallery.
No, he's
guy,
a painter
right?
too. I know Satriani has one of Newsted's paintings in his house.
Oh wow, okay.
Because they both lived in the Bay for a while. I mean, I'm not sure if Newsted still lives in San Francisco, but I mean,
probably. I mean, he's rich, so. And so it's.
Which, by the way, you have to live in San Francisco, even in the whole biggest hellhole there. It's like, oh, this is $10 million, right?
Right. Yeah. Right.
It's like 600 square foot thing,
Yeah, you can rent this closet for $10,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
It's insane. People in Manhattan are like, hold my beer right now, though.
Dude, no doubt. So I was talking to a student about this recently, and it can't. The success of And Justice for All. I mean, that's the album that really
One was a massive hit.
Yeah, was it was their first video, right, on MTV. Like that was all a really
that was really
deal.
The only hit from that album though that got any kind of traction.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
That's correct.
That's not to say that album's not great. There's all kinds of great. Blacken's on that album.
And Jason
Harvest for Sorrows on that album. There's a bunch of good stuff on that album.
Oh yeah, dude. Hours playing. Shortest Straw with my buddy down the street when I was a kid. We were just hours of dun 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 dun.
I always thought Blackened was my favorite off that album. I love that album, that tune.
So Jason Newsted wrote Blackened.
Oh,
he wrote most of it, like the riff, right? So ironic you can't hear his bass on it.
I know that's the highest of irony. Oh my god.
But so they achieved. At that time, unprecedented success for them at that point.
For any band in that genre, it was like impossible for like a thrash band to even conceive of. I'm gonna have like a #1 album, kind of.
Right.
That was just insane. You know what I mean?
So that's what enabled. Like if that album had done well, but not as well. Like if one
Justice, wait.
Yeah, and Justice for All, right? Yeah. If that album had been. If it had done well, but just with no music video, then we might have got one more good Metallica album.
Well, I think that what happened is the label saw, okay, there's some potential here. And then after that, they did the Monsters of Rock tour, what they did with Van Halen and Scorpions and Dokken and those guys. They had that massive stadium tour.
Yeah.
So that just really exposed them to a lot of other straight-ahead metal fans who maybe aren't thrash fans, you know what I mean?
Yeah, good point.
And apparently they kicked total ass on that tour. So it's one of those things where, they were so hungry and they just tore it up on that tour. And I think that, combined with the video hit, that just set the stage for the Black Album to come out and do what it did. You know what I mean? And,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, watch any of the... I would tell people, watch the... watch the Master of Puppets tour clips you can find.
Yeah, when it opened for Ozzy, you mean?
Yeah, that is a hungry... Metallica.
Yeah, and that was
Yep.
already, what, 3 albums in, so they
Yeah.
already done Kill 'Em All and Red Lightning at that point. So they were already established at that point. You know?
That's right. So that's the best Metallica.
If I'm not mistaken,
right
it's not tour. Wasn't that a 3-band bill? Wasn't it Motley, Ozzy, and Metallica the opening?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. And so Motley was going on after those guys. That shows you how big Motley Crue was at that time. That they were way bigger than Metallica.
Oh yeah.
Dokken was bigger than Metallica back then. You know what I mean? No doubt. Which I personally, this is going to sound weird, but I like Dokken better than Metallica. Personally, you know what I mean? But
You know what? If I'm in my car and like Back for the Attack comes on, I'm not going to.
anything with George Lynch, I'm on, dude. I'm on board.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I just
Ironically, both ESP artists. Now that I think about it. Kirk and-
Absolutely.
yeah.
You know, I'm happy to report I've had some students inquire about learning some George Lynch stuff.
Oh, dude, Lynch, especially then, like Back for the Attack, Lynch. Holy shit, he was like that most. I mean, the good thing Van Halen was on the tour, or else he would have been the best guitar player on that whole thing.
You know, and like George Lynch stuff. So the most recent request I got was the solo for Wicked Sensation.
Oh yeah, dude, that whole album is so great.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Yeah.
peak George Lynch.
Yeah,
right?
but starting with with Under Lock and Key, going through Wicked Sensation, that is peak Lynch right
Yep.
there. I mean, I love Tooth and Nail too. That's a great record, but it's like the production's not so great. The songwriting is good on that too. I wish the production was better on Tooth and Nail. Production on Breaking the Chains is like unforgivably bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though there's some good material on that.
It's an older
Paris is
album.
Burning and stuff.
Oh,
That's
such
some
a great song.
Killer stuff. You know, this great everything except for the production sounds terrible. And Tooth and Nail was a little better, but it wasn't like better. It wasn't until Under Lock and Key that it got freaking great.
Yeah, Under Lock and Key is produced really well.
Yeah, Michael Wagner, baby.
Back for the Attack, it doesn't hold up as well. Like
No, I
it
agree.
really needs a remaster.
It's almost too squashed or something. I feel like they compressed the hell out of it. Whereas I thought Under Lock and Key was a little more, had more air to it. You know what I mean?
I wonder if that's has anything to do with desiring a radio play. I mean, stuff gets squashed when it was broadcast.
I
On
think that was
radio.
I think the wheels were already coming off by the time Back for the Attack was being recorded. Like in the sense that they all hated each other and were just trying to get through making the album. You know,
Yeah.
And they were touring and flying in and recording and then flying out and then flying in and recording and flying out and weren't wanting to be there. And they were fighting about what kind of solos were going to be where and stuff. There's all kinds of infighting going on. So I think the fact that the album came out as good as it did is pretty damn amazing. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
George still talks about how Mr. Scary is what it is because he won't say Don's name. He'll say the singer wasn't able to sing it.
Yeah, he didn't have anything to sing over it. But thank God for that because we got freaking Mr. Scary.
Mr. Scary, yeah.
Yeah,
So
anyway, the point I'm trying to make though is at that time, Dokken was bigger than Metallica back on the Injustice tour. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's people can't get their head around that now. It's hard to imagine a time when Metallica wasn't the top of the bill.
Imagine Metallica with George Lynch on lead guitar.
Yeah, but you know what though? His style is so unique. It would take it in some other direction. It would be like this song going this way, and then the solo would totally deviate this other way and come back. It's like
Sounds
Marty.
interesting.
It's like if Marty Friedman was in Metallica. It'd be the same thing. It would just go in this other direction and then come back to their stuff. Where I think Kirk,
We can all dream.
I mean, I totally have thought about that.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking, I think Kirk is just the perfect guy because he just kind of is like a company man, just does what needs to be done on the solo. You know
He's
what I mean?
like, I've got these 2 licks.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna sit there. I'm gonna do some tonal picking on one string really fast, and then wah, 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 you know.
I'll make some elephant sounds.
Yeah.
I'll do my, double stops. I'm good.
But I think that Kirk's perfect for what Metallica needed a lead guitar player to be. I actually am a fan of Kirk Hammett. I think he's good. I mean, he's not Marty Friedman. He's not George Lynch. He's not like a monster guitar player, but he is a very good guitar player who was perfect for that band.
Sure, and it's great for younger players to learn some Kirk Hammett stuff because I mean it's fundamental.
And undeniably, classic. Listen to listen to Solo to One, listen to Solo to Master of Puppets.
I think One is Kirk Hammett's finest moment.
I would argue the Master of Puppets solos are both pretty great too. And Sanitarium's got a great solo on it too. Welcome Home Sanitarium.
Yeah.
That's got a good one. I mean, now that Fade to Black's got some cool. I mean, there's some classic solos that he did. I'll give credit where credit is due.
Yeah, Fade to Black is a pretty iconic solo.
I mean, totally. Even freaking what he was doing on like the secondary parts on like For Whom the Bell Tolls were pretty cool. Even though they're not like burning or anything, they're really great writing.
Yeah,
I would say
definitely.
So yeah, I gotta give Kirk his flowers. He gets a lot of shit, and sometimes that shit comes from me.
Comes from us. Yeah, right. Totally.
But he deserves his flowers for that. So I think
seems like a good dude.
He does. It seems like he's just like happy to be the lead guitar player of Metallica, and he should be.
And
he brought stuff to the table too. It's not like he's just hanging on and being like coattail writer or something like that. He actually brought a lot to the table too.
Lots of teachable stuff. So he's great. I'd rather I'd rather have a student be excited about learning some Kirk Hammett stuff.
Yep.
Because they're going to learn things.
Yep.
You know, we're gonna learn some little arpeggios.
You can see the stuff that Satriani taught him back in the day. You know what I mean? You can see those lessons, and you know you can. Like,
Man.
oh, this is this. You know,
I used to work with a guy when I was working at Guitar Player. You know, back in the late '90s. I've probably mentioned this on the podcast, but they hired this dude got hired that would show up to work with a fucking parrot. Like on his shoulder, like a pirate. He had a pet parrot, right?
What's his name? Like Captain Pegleg Pete or something?
Man, it was the weirdest thing.
I need
Yeah.
to play some guitar. Arr, you know.
Total space case, right? And he would also...
he must have really nailed the interview at the job.
I have no idea. It was just one of the most bizarre things, right?
You know what we're really looking for in our sales manager is someone who has a parrot at all
Yeah,
times.
he eventually got fired because...
Can't imagine. Oh my God.
He sold a guitar for... like under cost,
for
like
6 doubloons.
yeah, right. Like he sold a guitar at like under cost, like just to be nice or something.
Oh, okay.
Like real. I don't want to say he was like a hippie, but he was definitely like.
I never known like parrots on the shoulders being a hippie thing. That's
Well, that's it's not quite like he was just a spacey dude,
okay. Wow.
right? But he also. Like so, I think sometime after he got canned, he started advertising for guitar lessons.
Like he's giving guitar lessons?
Yeah,
Oh,
he's
okay.
giving guitar lessons,
Okay.
and like I think he came by. He wanted to like drop off some flyers, and we were like, no.
Yeah.
And he listed himself as a what was it like second, like a Joe Satriani student, like once removed or something like that.
Okay.
Or I think he described
Like
it as
he
like
totally like knows this guy who knows this guy who knows this other guy who's
Yeah, it was like
cousin's
6
friend's
degrees
brother.
of Joe Satriani.
One time
yeah.
saw Joe Satriani.
No doubt. Yeah, just the weirdest ass thing. So that was part of his bio.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like a second generation Joe Satriani student. Like
Well,
so you.
that's great for getting someone to like call, but like, isn't they gonna? They're gonna know when they walk in the door, like, hey, why do you have a parrot, and how comes you can't play?
Yeah, and I don't. I mean, I can't knock the guy as a player or anything. I just.
I could
just,
knock the parrot. That makes
Yeah, the
that's
parrot
super
part was
weird.
really weird. Like, and I shit
There's got to
you
be some
not.
OSHA laws against that, right? You can't just bring a parrot somewhere. I mean,
Well, yeah. I mean, this must have been like 96 or 97 or something.
this is
like
not the
that.
West
Yeah.
Indies in the late 1690s.
Yeah, no. No, Captain Kidd has nothing to do with this.
Exactly. Doesn't make sense to me. But anyway,
So, yeah.
But with Kirk, though, you can hear some of those lessons that Satriani was giving him. And apparently, by all accounts, he took the lessons seriously. He worked hard. You know, and Satriani himself said that Kirk worked hard to get the stuff down. You know what I mean?
That's high praise
Yep.
because Satchel just like walk out on the lesson,
Yeah, it's true.
go
He
across
would.
the street and have a hamburger.
Get
if
this
you
down. I'll
yeah.
be back in 10 minutes. You know,
Right.
It's like, that must have been nice to be able to do that. Can you imagine if we tried to pull that crap?
Oh God, yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, I swear. But no, I mean, and that it's not like anyone knew. Oh, that's Joe Satriani. He was just another guitar teacher at the time. No one knew who he was going to be or something like that. You know what I mean?
Dude, wouldn't it be great to go back to that time when like Steve Vai is taking lessons from Joe Satriani in Berkeley?
Yeah.
Like you could get in drive like an hour and a half and go take a lesson.
No,
from
Steve
Joe
I took
Satriani.
lessons from Satriani in Long Island.
Oh, was it Long Island?
Yeah, he didn't.
Oh.
They parted ways right when Satriani moved to California, and then right after that, Vi went to the Berklee College of Music.
Oh,
Yeah. So then
okay.
Satriani started teaching out in Berkeley, and he was teaching guys like Kirk Hammett and like Jeff Tyson and Alex Skolnick and
Nice.
oh my God, who's the guitar player for Primus? Larry Lalonde. And then there's one other guy, Charlie Hunter, he was
Nice.
teaching at that time. Andy Timmons, apparently, he was teaching for a while. So I mean, all those guys, gosh,
All from
even
the same tree.
Danny Gill, one of my old friends, who took lessons from Satch too. So
That's so cool.
But I mean, he was very prolific, and that just shows you how much great music was going on in the Bay Area at that time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, there was a lot of great
Man.
players coming up. Skolnick's probably one of the best of that group. I'd
Yeah,
argue
Skolnick's great.
Jeff Tyson's the best guitar player nobody knows about. That guy was a freaking monster. It's unfortunate that T-Ride didn't get a chance to keep going because he could have shown everybody how great he was. That guy was a monster guitar player.
So now, who did Jeff Tyson? Was he just always a solo
No,
artist?
he was
or-
in T-Ride.
Oh, he was in T-Ride. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
he was a guitar player in T-Ride.
I thought you were just giving people hip hop names again, Scott.
No, T-Ride. Yeah,
Hey, T-Ride.
No, T-Ride was his band, and they made one album that got pretty good promotion. Major label release. It was like, God, it must have been like 92, 93 or something like that. It was like right when it was too late. It's not like they were a hair band, but they looked like, you know, any other rock band in that time period. They had
Sure.
long hair and stuff, but they were very unique. I mean, I think you've checked out some of the T-Ride stuff, right?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I don't recall. I'm gonna have to go dig into that.
Check out Backdoor Romeo. That'll give you a good chance of what it is.
That sounds like the title to one of these AI songs I've been ripping on my buddy with.
You know, there's a great song on that album. It's called "You and Your Friend." And
nice.
And the chorus is, "I can't see you and me and her without each other."
Love it.
And I hope you feel the same way too.
So it's a ballad.
It is. It's a love ballad.
Nice.
Yeah, tender love ballad.
Gotta dust that one off every Valentine's Day.
Think I'm in love with you and your friend. Understand you. It's actually really great.
That's catchy. That's great.
No, well, they actually were an interesting kind of band. They were like a Van Halen and like Queen had a baby with like an R&B band. I don't know how to describe it.
Because there would have to be three parties.
Yeah.
They've laid that out quite clearly.
True.
Yes.
That's what their core beliefs are.
Yes.
But it was like that would be kind of like how you could describe T-Ride. They had like some of the vocal and arrangement ideas of Queen, but with some of the grooves of like an R&B, but like funk band.
Nice.
But with like the rockiness and the you know monster lead guitar tones of like Van Halen. So it was. But I think that was kind of, they fell into that extreme trap in the sense that like, you know, like you kind of, you know, you can't define what they are, so it's like it becomes hard to market this band because they kind of are a bunch of things. They're not really any one thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they were actually creating art.
Yeah, I mean, Faith No More was like that. You know,
Yeah.
Saigon Kick was like that. Extreme was like that. You know, a bunch of bands were like that in that time period. That's why I was so excited for the future of rock back in like 92, 93. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be this like this stylistically indefinable, amazing musicianship. It's gonna be great.
Yep.
Womp
Womp womp. Yep, exactly.
You know, it was like, oh no, it's just gonna be bad pop punk.
For those of you playing, so you know that there's a new drinking game that has cropped up around our podcast.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it's,
I didn't know that though.
Right, which I know it seems like that's what I was playing last night, but yeah. Well, I mean, yesterday was an important
Ryan's
holiday.
playing hurt today, so everyone knows.
Yes, I'm a little hurt too. Well, okay, so my buddy from LA was in town, who I never get to see, right?
Yeah.
But yesterday also concluded this year's 30 Days of Ripping on Jason event.
Well, this is the finale.
It was the finale, yeah.
The season finale.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, you know, my good buddy Jason, it's his birthday in September. So, you know, to honor him, me and my other buddy, we rip on him every single day via text message. It's like a 30-day roast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this year was a good event.
That's how Brian shows love, by the way. Before you think he's a monster and recoil and horror.
Oh,
That's
again,
how he shows love.
I went to Catholic school. Mockery is my love language.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yes. Well, I also bought Jason's kids guitars because they're all signed up for guitar lessons starting in October. So, you know what? I can...
Very kind of you to do that, by the way. That was very
it's
cool
my point. You know, kids, God, man, you know, it really bugs me when a student, and I realize different people have different needs, but like anytime someone shows up with a Donner brand guitar or even worse, BCP,
oh geez,
you know, like the Chinese Amazon guitar, like we're gonna waste so much time just trying to get that guitar to be functional.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm happy to do the favor for, you know, I mean, because he's got like 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know how many kids he has now.
Just throwing them on every couple of
years. Yeah, I told him just like the two youngest, you know, boys, just like, I mean, they're under 10 years old. He can still sell them to like Somalian pirates or something.
Well, I mean, God, there's probably, you know, people in the Mexican mob that'd be willing to take them. You know?
Sure, there's all kinds of possibilities, right?
Exactly.
You know, so I told him I appreciate that he, you know, signed up his best kids for guitar lessons.
Those are garbage.
Yeah.
Not your garbage kids.
Yeah, I assume that most of my friends, you know, only introduce me to their best kids.
Way to lift them up, right?
Yeah, totally. You know, I think just thank you for, you know, I'm happy to build a relationship with your favorites.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the other ones, just, you know, I don't know what you take.
So there's some money on the table. Those guys they're nothing to me. They're dead to me.
So anyway, I hate it having to like, you know, when you have to waste a lot of time, like learning time to make a a cheap guitar functional.
Yeah, it's tough.
So we're just gonna, not to mention it totally spoils the fun for the kid, right?
Yeah,
if it doesn't work right.
Good experience of like, oh, this is great. My first electric guitar. This is incredible. Although you and I both had that experience. Our first guitars were garbage too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe it's just a time-honored tradition. You have to have a piece of garbage guitar that can't. That's the secret to success right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, my guitar. Well, so there's my old classical over there. But you know what? At least like none of the. Like the action wasn't good, and it was a nylon string guitar.
Yeah, that's just the nature of a cheap classical guitar. I mean,
yeah, it was a cheap classical guitar. But it didn't fret out or anything, right? Some of these cheap Chinese electric guitars, they like sharp frets.
Yeah.
They'll fret. I don't know what they're
not
building.
seated properly.
Yeah,
there's all kinds of issues.
Like I don't, they won't intonate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, fret buzz like crazy to the point where it just frets out.
When you make a guitar to make a profit that freaking retails for $75 or something, what do you expect? You know what I mean?
I'm sure cost is like $10 a guitar.
Exactly.
So like I don't even know what the bodies are made out of.
I bet it's made of real hardwood.
Yeah, it's got real wood-like qualities.
Exactly.
Like plywood would be an upgrade.
That's for sure.
Right.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and you're not wrong. But I guess look at it, whatever gets you in the door, and then we can go from there. Let's get your foot in the door, and we'll make it work until you need something better, which is right now, but we'll get there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so speaking of needing something better, another band that comes to mind that has lost their edge of success, oh my God, is Guns N' Roses. This is like maybe them and Metallica are like the two poster child cases for that. Because as soon as they hit Appetite for Destruction, they had like all those hits. They're touring, with AC/DC, doing stadiums and crap like that back in the day.
Yeah.
Maybe the money and the drugs just lost the plot or something. But
Steven Adler. That's what happened. And then Izzy Stradlin bailed, and he was the heart of the band. Two things seem to. There's two parts to this that seem to coincide.
Okay.
There's the loss of a key band member. Right.
It's not Izzy. Well, Izzy
for Guns N' Roses, Cliff for Metallica.
Well, Izzy didn't leave till after Use Your Illusion, though. He was in the band through that. You know what I mean?
Was he?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was only Adler that left initially.
Got kicked
Matt
out.
Sorum took his place. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, then I guess Izzy's song, it doesn't sound like they don't sound like Izzy Stradlin's songs.
I mean, I think Axl took a bigger part of the songwriting at that point, and then him and Slash, those are the two biggest stars in the band. You know what I mean? We're doing that. It's funny. I was actually at the gym the other day, and I heard "You Could Be Mine." It came on the radio, and I remember thinking like, wow, this isn't as good as I remember it being. I remember it being a lot better. I remember thinking, man, this kicks ass back in the day. But I'm like, it's kind of, it's all right.
Yeah, I remember being hyped for it, and like Terminator 2 was coming out.
Yeah, exactly. That's how long ago this was, people. Terminator 2 was just about to come out.
That's right.
You mean the guy that was in Predator is going to be in the Terminator? Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Okay, so I was on YouTube the other day, and someone actually did it's like a fan fiction introducing the Predator into the Star Wars universe video.
Oh, they flipped you off.
I know. I got ripped off.
I can't believe it.
I mean, that's what happens when you have an idea that's that good.
Yeah, it's undeniable.
Yeah, it didn't seem like the Predator murdered stupid Baby Yoda yet, but but the door was open.
That was your treatment. It's like he like him and Mando end up having this days long cat and mouse hunting back and forth kind of thing.
I wonder if we can use the master file from that podcast as poor man's copyright.
Yeah, exactly right.
Dude.
We had the idea. Well, dude, people have gotten paid off for less than that. You kidding me?
I might need to lawyer up. Okay, dude.
We had this idea back in the day. You can't do it. No.
Man, everything's looking up today.
The point I'm trying to make, though, is that, Guns N' Roses, they kind of peaked right out the gate. First album, they peaked, and then that's undeniable. Anybody who's saying that they had great stuff after Appetite, I don't know what great stuff we're talking about. They had a couple of okay things here and there. Most bands get at least 3 or 4 or 5 records in before they run out of ideas. Guns N' Roses ran out of ideas right away.
Yeah, and You Could Be Mine. I think they even released that before Use Your Illusion 1 came out, because I remember specifically I had to wait for Use Your Illusion 2 to get that song.
Yeah. Because by the way, there was no downloading back then, people. You had to actually buy the album.
Yeah. And it was very much an Enter Sandman moment where the first song is oh, okay, well, this is kind of cool. I can't wait to hear what's next. And then the rest of it's just...
I'm trying to think. Is there any other good ones on either Use Your Illusion 2 or 1? I mean, there's a couple covers that got a lot of. There's a bunch of stuff that got radio play. Like November Rain got radio play. Don't Cry got radio play. Was it Civil War got radio play? Knocking on Heaven's Door got radio play. I mean, there's a bunch of tunes that got radio play.
Yeah, none of those songs are Rocket Queen or You're Fucking Crazy or Mr. Brownstone.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, it's crazy to me how that. I mean, you would think that that the hungry for more. That's the first one out the gate. Okay, now we got to build on this. I guess that's what lots and lots of drugs will do to you. Like we kind of just get completely fucked up. All
lots
the
of
time.
ego, and then record company executive. Axl Rose thinking he was better at music than he really is.
Yeah, and then Slash just kind of like what? Just strung out all the time. Duff strung out all the time.
They're like, dude, just pose in front of this church and mime guitar, and we're gonna fly the helicopter around. Thanks for listening to Rock Guitar Confidential with Scott and Ryan. Please make sure to like, rate, and subscribe. Now back to the show.
But it's like that success came so quick to them that they just never recovered, and not so years later. I mean, some of the stuff that Slash does with his solo band is pretty great, but not close to the Appetite for Destruction. It's one of those things where that must have been lightning in the bottle. That one thing, it just kind of happened, and that was that.
And this is why everyone should love Skid Row.
Yeah, well, Skid Row only had really 2.5 great records in them.
Well, better. That's more than
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses had.
But I wish. I mean, they're considering the talent in that band. They should have been more. You know what I mean?
They were too young and too. Same thing, right? Like Sebastian did some stupid shit and said some stupid shit.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But then, the other guys in the band were kind of petty and immature about it too. And I think that they had that same. I think what's funny, and I think this happened with bands like Rat and Dokken too, is that when you have success and it's sustained success for say 6-7 years, you just pretty much, and Warrant was like this too. Like they pretty much assume that the money train's going to go forever, and it's just going and you think that you're the main reason why. And there's a whole bunch of. It's almost like an NBA player. Like, oh man, they're so lucky to have you. You don't even know they wouldn't be nothing without you. That kind of thing. They start believing that shit.
Right, believing their own bullshit.
Yeah, and then they make bad decisions, and then they don't realize that was their peak. They'd already peaked. You know what I mean? It's
Dude, I'll tell you what. There's a video that just came up in my YouTube feed of it's Skid Row like in rehearsal.
Nowadays or
no, like 1989. I think.
Back on the first album.
Yeah. Oh shit. And so it's all live. And it's just they're just in their rehearsal warehouse, right?
Yep. Someplace in New Jersey, somewhere probably.
Yeah. And they're playing Youth Gone Wild.
Yeah.
Holy shit, that band was good.
Yeah. Well,
dude, they're so tight.
Height of the Powers, man. That back then, that's when they wanted it. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think that you could argue that similar to Guns N' Roses, like their first album was so successful. They really never got back to that level of success again. I mean, I thought obviously the next album was fantastic. Slave to the Grind was a great record, but it never really got back up commercially to that level again. And then just kind of went down again with Subhuman Race, and it just kind of kept going down.
So
part of that can be attributed to the '90s. Part of it can be contributed to the songs are not being as great. You know what I mean? It's
I mean, Skid Row is what rock should have. It was still a little harder edged, but like top musicianship, great stage presence, just still down and dirty band.
Baz, whatever you might say about him, is a fantastic singer, great frontman. I mean, there's no doubt about that. You know what I mean? But I think that band. I think they had enough success to sustain them. All the way that Baz is a relatively successful solo career. They're still touring at Skid Row too. So both parties were able to, have enough success with that initial burst to keep going. I mean, Guns N' Roses clearly too is still one of the biggest bands in the world, but they're clearly just like living off the coattails of Appetite for Destruction. I mean, that's like, that's like why because if you make one of the greatest, I mean, I guess you could just, drop the mic right there. You make one of the greatest rock and roll albums in history. You're going to be able to just tour on that forever. That's, hey man, I freaking wrote Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
man, if Guns N' Roses would just do like Appetite for Destruction, I mean, maybe they do. I know they're out touring again, or they were, but it's still not this. I don't know that Axl's voice is held up.
No, that he didn't live a life where he was trying to hold up. He didn't think he was going to be alive at like mid-60s. Still got out of sing freaking Mr. Brownstone at 65. Yeah. He wasn't thinking that at all. He didn't think he was going to be 35. You know.
Now Sebastian Bach, as far as I can tell, his voice has held up.
Pretty well.
Pretty well.
Not like he's not. Nobody is superhuman. Outside of Glenn Hughes. He's the only person who can actually sing exactly like he did back in the 70s. But Baz can't sing like he did in 89, 90, but he still sings damn good, you know, for what he does. It's,
Yeah, so if there's any young listeners out there, if you're going to start a band, try and be like Skid Row. We need young, mean, like hungry, like ready to fight you in an alley with a switchblade, like rock and roll. Like somebody, please.
Okay, that brings us to another band that comes to mind of the band that lost their edge of success, which is Aerosmith.
Oh God, yeah.
Those guys. I mean, they had a good. I mean, similar to Guns N' Roses in the sense that they got so into the weeds of the partying and the drugs that it just kind of derailed them. And then they got back on the track again for a short time, and then got derailed again by egos.
I mean, I think like Pump was probably the last.
Well, they had that early run from the like mid '70s to like the early '80s where they kind of fell apart. They had like a bunch of lineup changes going on, but when they came back with Permanent Vacation in like '87, that was like their big comeback record. And they had massive hits on that album. You know what I mean? And then they had Pump, which had massive hits. Get a Grip had massive hits. So they came back and had a huge resurgence in like I guess it would be like late '80s through like the mid '90s. And then that happened then as the money got so big again, is my thought, and that all the egos started getting bent out of shape, and who gets credit for this and who gets credit for that.
What are the hit songs off Get a Grip?
Get a Grip. Oh my God, there's like 3 of them. One of the ones from Armageddon. I don't.
I'm not. Oh God, that song's horrible, and that movie is horrible. Everything about that package of media is horrible.
Let's just say though, it was massively successful for them. They had like 2 other ones.
Because it was garbage.
Eat the Rich was on that one. Eat the Rich that's a pretty cool tune.
Which ironic.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, but
they are rich.
They had climbed themselves all the way back to the top again. You know, after having fallen off, and people thinking, okay, these guys are going to be dead in 2 years because they're partying and stuff.
Yeah,
and
just those ballads are so fucking awful.
But they were massive for that band.
Bad.
They were massive for that band. You know what I mean? And that got them back to that level of success.
Yeah, so I'll count Pump as the last decent Aerosmith album.
There's some good stuff on it. I have to go back and re-listen. I know Get a Grip's got some good stuff. I remember liking that album. I think there was good stuff on that album. I mean, I didn't love it. I thought Pump and Permanent Vacation were great.
Ragdoll was co-written by Holly Knight.
That's Ragdoll living. That whole album is really good, actually. It has also Angel, which is a really great ballad. That's actually a killer ballad on Permanent Vacation.
Yeah. Okay. So I would rather listen to Angel than like anything that came after.
I think two ballads,
like any of the ballads that came after.
2 ballads in that era that I think are awesome are Angel by Aerosmith and The Flame by Cheap Trick. I think those are both awesome ballads.
In a Darkened Room by Skid Row's better.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think it's great. I don't know if I agree with that. Also,
that's the thing about Skid Row is that the ballads don't suck.
That's true. Their ballads are great.
Got to give them credit for that.
Yeah, and Darkened Room and Quicksand Jesus is also on that album too.
Ooh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually really good albums. You know,
even I Remember You. That's like the sappiest of all of them. It's still a great song.
That's really great solos and stuff. I mean, that. I know we've spent a lot of time on this podcast talking about lamenting the 90s, but that's what we lost, people. Is actually having where music was great. Like there was great songwriting, great singing, great solos, great parts. It was, and then when the grunge thing happened, you do, well, just get rid of the great vocals and the great solos.
Oh, yeah, the drinking game is take a shot every time we rip on Kurt Cobain.
Yeah, well, it's not just Kurt Cobain. It's really a whole cadre of folks in that group. But
yes.
That's what we lost. So if it seems like we're kind of stuck in this like rut, it's like, well, yeah, if you take everything that's dear to you and throw it into the blender, it's going to leave a mark.
Into a muddy puddle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know what I mean? Though it's like it's so terrible. Like what came after it by comparison. You know what I mean? It's oh my god.
But hey, we're putting out the call. So young musicians out there starting a band, like don't stop idolizing Blink 181. Right? Go out there and don't be Blink 182. Be Skid Row.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can do it if you practice and stuff
and have the attitude and have the want to, which is something that is. You're better than watered down punk. Young generation. It's true. Yeah, but unfortunately,
whoever you are,
they were never exposed to that. Except for like the few parents who did their duty and like said, "Here, this is a band called Rat. This is band Skid Row. This is Dokken. This is Scorpions." You know what I mean? There's a few that have done that, but. And what's funny is those kids, once they fall in love with that music, they also are just like us. This is not just us being old men yelling at clouds.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like this other stuff is so shitty in comparison. Like, why are we even talking about this? You know what I mean? It's like, it's true. So anyway,
young people who care about being good at guitar. I mean, they're asking me to transcribe Wicked Sensation.
Hell yeah, dude.
Which is great. Dude, George Lynch is
good for George too, man. That's awesome. If the next generation picks up on Dokken and how great they were,
Yeah, dude, George Lynch is hard to transcribe, right? Like all
It's not a rhyme or reason to what he's doing. It's kind of like
it's so like I'm trying to explain that to my student, like just how off the cuff George is, right? So like really, and then he never plays the solo the same way twice.
yeah, it's true. Well, because everything was done in takes, and he would just do take,
Right.
and then they kind of comp it together a version with the best bits.
Yeah, all Lynch's solos are comp solos.
And then he, at the time, would either learn them or not learn them. And just go do whatever he wanted to do. You know what I mean? It's so funny. Although I had that REH video where he goes through and breaks down the solos like Unchain the Night and Just Got Lucky and some of those tunes, like, you know what I mean? Love Dawkins. Great
Dude,
band.
is that the one where he's tracking the solo for Street Fighting Man?
Yeah, in the studio with, Max Norman working the board, too, by the way. Yeah.
And he's got that... a
bunch of different ESPs.
Yeah, is that one in particular ESP? I think it's like solid quilted maple.
Oh, dude, I sat and watched that so much when I was like 13 years old. I just sat there and just soaked that in. You know what I mean? I was like, this is so great.
Wanted that guitar back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember watching the Red Beach one, too, the Red Beach instructional video.
Yeah, cutting loose.
And then watching his guitar. And just... It's impossible to say how inspiring that time was.
Yeah.
'Cause everywhere you turn, there was like another amazing guitar player coming out of the woodwork, and you're like, holy shit, oh my God, this is great. Guitar ruled the world in that time period. Like the pinnacle of what you could aspire to be as a human being was an electric lead guitar player.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Which is the path you and I both followed.
Yes, and it still is. It's just not everybody understands that.
People are now lost in the weeds,
right,
into the Kanye weeds.
Yeah.
I had one of my students actually say the words, Kanye is genius the other day, and I was just like, oh my God, have you never heard any other music before? You know, I was like, but you know what's weird is he has like, oh my God, this happened to me yesterday. I had one of my students, and please, if you're listening, don't take offense. I won't name names, but he's really into like Megadeth and Marty Friedman, and Steve Vai and that kind of stuff, right? But then he came in with a guitar tune to drop C sharp, and I was like, going, what's going on? He was like, oh, I was playing some Linkin Park. And I was like, what? Like, you're so much better than this, dude. Like, why are you listening to Linkin Park? Oh my God! Like,
Linkin Park's one of those bands.
You need to reevaluate a few things. You know what I mean? It's like it's just crappy pop music. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so that's one of those weird bands that like I don't actively dislike. The same way I feel about the grunge apocalypse bands, right?
I don't actively like in any way though either. They remind me of Coldplay was slightly heavier. That's what they remind me of. You know what I mean?
I feel it's kind of like. I mean, there's so many other bands that cross over hip hop and rock and metal, right? That do it so much better. It's kind of like. It's like weak sauce.
They remind me of Imagine Dragons with more guitars.
Okay, now Imagine Dragons I actively dislike.
But that's when I think of Linkin Park, I think, they're just like Imagine Dragons with like slightly louder guitars. You know what I mean?
I guess
it doesn't rock. There's nothing about Linkin Park that rocks.
It all seems very safe.
It is. It's
and bland, right?
It is. It's like the most milquetoast nonsense I can possibly imagine. And I'm sitting there going, dude, you should be listening to Tornado of Souls. What are you listening to fucking?
Or you know what? If you listen to listen to Ice-T's Body Count.
No, don't listen to that.
Hell
listen to something that kicks total ass.
Oh, well, Body Count kicks total ass.
No, come on. It's not like
Body Count's fucking.
It's not on a Marty Friedman level.
Oh, it's not. It doesn't have the same level of virtuosity, but the songs are badass. And they're still, Ernie C plays some solo. Oh, and they've got one of the Dead play. They've got two guitar play. I saw them live at NAMM last time I went, and dude, Body Count is the shit.
All right, I'll take your word for it.
But the thing is that they hit hard, and Ice-T is not afraid to be a little controversial.
That's true. That's really just rubbing all your sweet spots right there.
It really is. It's
Ryan Belly rubs musically.
Yes, it's not Taco Bell mild sauce, which is what Linkin Park is.
Oh my God, you're giving them too much credit for that one. I don't even call it mild sauce.
Okay, it's Del Taco mild sauce.
I don't. No, Del Taco's better than Taco Bell, dude. Oh my God.
You think? Well, I'm talking about the mild. Okay, well, so then it's
like I don't know, like a white man's mild,
it's like dollar store mild sauce.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but I just was so horrified. I'm like, I can't believe it. You're like, what? Why are you doing this? It's like, are you trying to hurt me? Is that what this is? It's like,
I know we've talked about this on the podcast, but so now the nostalgia trends are working their way into the late 90s,
early 2000s. I know it's hard to think, but if you came out and you're a brand new band 2001, I'm seeing all these things about like, oh my gosh, this is now the 20th anniversary of this album that I conceive of it being pretty new. Like, oh yeah, I remember when that came. That's 20 years ago.
I know.
Holy shit.
25. Yeah, so they're like 25, 26 years ago.
Yeah, I was actually I saw a thing on Weezer celebrating the 30th anniversary of their first album, and I was like, what? Weezer's got their first album's 30 years old.
That's
Are
wild.
You kidding me? I was like, it's like insane. They showed the guys in the band, like, oh my god, they're like middle aged, like mid 50s guys. Like, you know,
I got to give Rivers Cuomo credit for at least bringing back like heavy wall of electric guitar sound.
I just
Weezer songs are well crafted.
Here's what I
gotta
would say.
give Weezer credit.
I don't hate Weezer, but I don't have really any feelings for Weezer at all. I don't hate them. I just barely acknowledge their existence. But
there's some simple guitar solos that are good for beginners to learn.
At
that
least
are
there's guitar
melodic.
solos. Yeah, I mean that's all.
And dude, Rivers Cuomo just last year he shredded some Yngwie Malmsteen on a podcast.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, I guess I think it was like but maybe it was Black Star or Far Beyond the Sun. I don't know, something like
Getting
that.
some cred right there, man.
Yeah, so Rivers Cuomo can shred some Yngwie.
But here's what I'll tell you, people out there, young people with limitless potential and future in front of them, is that you'll know you're getting old when you see stuff that you regard as new hit their 20th and 30th anniversaries. You're like going, oh my god.
Dude, is there going to be any of that with like new? Like, is anyone going to remember any of
That's
those
a good
songs
point. Yeah,
in
I was thinking the
25 to
same
30
thing.
years? I think it's all.
I was
just
thinking
gonna
about
be
like,
forgettable.
you know, I was actually re-listening to one of our podcasts a while back, and you mentioned the immortal guttural slug from the Slam movement. And I remember thinking
it's a great name.
in like 30 years from now, are there gonna be like, you know, like fans going to like the Canocti Harbor Casino, go see Guttural Slug with their wives and seeing how? I wonder. You remember how we listened to this back in the? It's like, is that going to happen? I wonder.
I'm taking my granddaughter to her first Guttural Slug concert.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like, is that going to happen 30 years from now? Like we're like, oh yeah, these bands they just mean so much to us. You know what I mean?
Can you imagine? You know, they make like the foam like number one hands for like baseball games. They can make like foam hand slugs to wave around.
Like Cash Creek Casino. You know,
Yeah, right.
It's like, you know, like I was wondering, is that going to happen 30 years from now? Is that going to happen?
You could go by the concession stand to like buy a beverage that makes you belch, so everybody could belch like a guttural slug.
Exactly. Oh,
Yeah.
Dreams. All right.
Dude,
Well, here's
that'd
what
be
I will
great.
say though. Here's my theory about what's going to happen. I think the answer is patently no. There's nothing made right now that's going to be like something that people are going to look back on 30, 40 years from now and say, oh my god, I got to hear that song again.
I mean, Taylor Swift is going to have fans like that.
Yeah, but I mean, for like in the
But
rock,
not for
in the
rock,
rock
yeah.
world, it's not. I mean, what I imagine is going to happen is it's going to be like high level cover bands, like cover bands who are essentially doing the entire catalog of these classic artists.
Yeah, tribute bands.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yep.
They're going to be like people who like look the part. They play the stuff note for note. They do all the different classic set lists. I have a feeling that's what's going to be drawing people to the casino circuit, like the 3,000 to 5,000 seat places in like 30 years from now.
Yeah.
It's going to be still Beatles, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Metallica. It's going to be Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, all those like classic bands. You know, REO Speedway. It's whatever it is. Pick any
Yeah.
band. It's that's what's going to be. It's going to be covers.
Man, that bums me out. So here's
And then all the
funny
new
anecdote.
bands will be like either just only doing stuff on YouTube or like playing, if YouTube still exists, or playing like little bars. You know,
It'll just be beamed via Wi-Fi into your brain.
Yeah.
You'll just put on VR glasses.
yep, that's
and
true.
then,
I think
yeah,
people probably
augmented
will have
reality.
ceased to leave their homes at that point. That's
Yes, we will have all become guttural slugs.
exactly.
Never
like
leaving
Wall-E,
our.
you know that the movie Wall-E, where the people are living in like they have
See,
they have the little chairs that they can't move. They don't move. They're like so fat and out of shape. They just like sit in a chair, and the chair moves them around from place to place. That's what they live their lives as.
I'll take your word for it. I've never seen Wall-E.
I have. I took my daughter to see it way back when she was young.
Yeah.
But I remember like thinking, oh my god, there's a lot of really cool social commentary in that movie about like, okay, where things are going.
That reminds me. There's another sign of the apocalypse I'll mention.
Oh,
since
nice.
Since
Good.
you mentioned Wall-E.
Okay.
But before I get into that,
such a positive thing to bring up.
we'll stay on. So my buddy Jason, right? Who again we just concluded
Yes.
30 days of ripping on Jason.
Yes.
For his birthday. Before we rip on him for the rest of the year.
And just for fun, those ones are on the house.
Yeah, exactly. My birthday's coming up in November.
Yep.
And I guess there's this tribute cover band playing in the Bay Area somewhere. You know, it was really, he suggested we go for my birthday, and I thought that was nice.
Oh yeah.
You know, the invite and everything. But so it's the band's called the Misfits. They're a Misfits and the Smiths like tribute act. They do music from both bands.
Is it like they alternate back and forth? Like, are they like a set of Smiths and a set of Misfits?
I mean, I assume so. But man, like I've seen the actual Misfits live.
Yep.
It just, I don't know, man. All the tribute band stuff kind of bums me out.
That's going to be the future, man. Because as those great bands, those classic bands, like start tapping out because either because they die or they just can't do it anymore. That's going to be what it is. You're going to have like a we'll see like the Monsters of Rock tour, but it'll be the covers of Dokken and Metallica.
Well, now it's the Monsters of Rock cruise, and so that'll eventually be like all tribute.
It'll be all tribute bands. Yep, exactly. So, and then what bums me out about that is that people aren't grabbing hold of the new music, and I think there's a couple of reasons why that's happening. Part of it's because the new music isn't at the level that the old music was. There's not any albums coming out now that are so classic that we're going to want to hear the songs again.
Well, there aren't young people making it.
Well, there are young people making it still, but the songwriting, I think we talked about this in a couple of podcasts ago, like the production, the producers who can guide them on their ideas are not there. So you basically have these bands, who are having these real hit and miss songs. That maybe 30 years ago, if they had like a Mutt Lange or a Michael Wagner or Keith Olsen or something like that, they would have been able to say, okay, we need this part, leave this part here, let's put the chorus here. They could help them craft the song, the ideas, and make it more cohesive. Right. Which all the great classic music that we all love, that's how it worked.
It was a great producer, right? It's because there was money in the music industry.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. As soon as the money went away, then the level of the songwriting went way down because there was not that there's people who weren't talented still. It's just that they didn't have anyone to help guide them on what. There's not enough objectivity when you're writing songs. You have people who can't,
There's no objectivity.
An outside ear who's got a lot of cachet, like a guy like Mutt Lange, you have to listen to him because he knows what the hell he's talking about. Bob Ezrin's another guy. The people like that, those artists like that.
Beau Hill.
Yeah, Beau Hill. We can go on. There's so many.
Chris Sankaridis.
Yeah, Michael Thompson.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of people. Hell, Quincy Jones. If you want to get.
Oh God, right.
But that's the difference. And all those great classic albums by all those classic artists that we love and we want to hear the songs over and over and over again. That's the thing that's missing. So I think that the songwriting levels just aren't there. I mean, I would argue that when it comes to the physicality of the instrument and virtuosity, we've never had higher level players than there are now. The guitar players now are the best guitar players that there's ever been.
Yep.
But the thing that they're missing is they don't have any way of writing music. They aren't songwriters. They're guitar players first, which is fine. But you also need to be a good songwriter. All the greatest guitarists who we all love, the guys like Van Halen,
wrote
Hendrix,
great songs.
Jimmy Page, all those guys wrote great songs too.
Yep.
And I think that's the difference. You know what I mean? And I don't know. To me, I think that's why that's happening. That's because the new stuff. It's not that there's not any good music being made. I mean, my God, Ex Aegis just put an album out last year.
Oh, that's right. The Ex Aegis album is awesome.
Yeah, it's one of the best things I think.
And rumor has it they're about to begin writing a follow-up.
Yeah, exactly right.
Nice.
So, but that's one beacon of hope amongst the darkness.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
A light in the darkness.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like some dark in the lightness if you're me.
Depends on what perspective you have.
Yes.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is that, I think that's why that's going to happen. Oh, yeah, one last band I want to mention before we run out of time today is Def Leppard. It's another band who just got to the pinnacle of success and then just this is pretty nice. I'm not going to ever try and reach this again.
Yeah, well, so was Mutt Lange involved on Adrenalize?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Adrenalize. Let's Get Rocked Let's Get Rocked, I think, has aged better than I would have expected.
There's a bunch of great stuff on that album. I really love Adrenalize. I do. I mean, to me, that's a great Def Leppard album. But that was like the coda. They kind of hit the peak with Hysteria, and then they did the coda, which was still really good. And then they really never got even back to Adrenalize.
Well, they tried to change their style with slang to chase the grunge apocalypse.
They felt like they had no choice. So did Motley Crue. Motley Crue did the one grunge album too.
God, that's a side effect of the grunge apocalypse we haven't really talked about much. And that's like all
the bands stuff. Not Van, but freaking Metallica cut their hair.
Metallica, the Load album, all the shitty
red
albums
hair
that came
and nose
from
rings and stuff. And
they hired Depeche Mode's photographer to do all the photo shoots. And I love Depeche Mode, by the way.
I know, but that's just not Metallica, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so all the legacy bands, what became of them. We could spend a whole podcast talking about
Van Halen didn't really change much, though. Van Halen kind of kept doing what Van Halen did. You know what I mean?
So when did Balance come out? It was like 96?
95.
95. That's a good album.
And then Van Halen 3 was 98. So they were still, that tour was still massively successful. They still played arenas everywhere. You know what I mean?
Well, Eddie was a god.
Yeah, he is a god. Well, forever to be a god. He's now in the Pantheon. But I mean, that's a band that didn't really miss a beat in the 90s. But I think Van Halen's kind of an outlier because that's just, they're just one of those all-time great bands.
I mean, Van Halen was Eddie Van Halen and Alex. I mean, as long as the brothers are there, it's going to have a sound.
No, Michael too. I would say with Michael, those three guys, and then, that's legit. If you have because Michael's vocals and his groove than his performances are on. I mean, I love Wolfgang, but it was not the same without Michael.
Yep.
You know, I mean, Michael, they brought so much more than just vocals. To,
I mean, Michael Anthony is one of the best like backup singers / bass guitar owners,
groove player, and amazing performer too. That's the thing. And I think that's something that they needed, that little counterbalance to, you know. Anyway, that album wasn't received well, Van Halen 3, but it was actually an incredibly successful tour. I talked to a lot of people who said that was their favorite Van Halen tour they ever saw, because they played everything. They played the Sammy stuff, they played the Roth stuff. They didn't like, they played some of the Gary stuff too. I mean, they basically they did a little bit of everything. And I think that was kind of cool. And that was the last kind of gasp of young-ish Eddie Van Halen before he kind of lost the plot in the early 2000s.
Yeah, well, and had some health issues.
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
it's got to be
addiction issues that led to health
that's
issues.
A health issue.
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
So, but anyway, that's a band that kind of didn't get derailed. But Def Leppard for sure. I think if you're Def Leppard and you're at the height of what you can possibly be in like 1987, 88, and then you put out in 1990 they put out Adrenalize, and that was like right at the end of that thing. Still massively successful. Still a great album. You know, there's a lot of great stuff on it. But then I think when the grunge thing happened, they were one of those bands that got hit just as hard as anybody else.
Sure, they had to survive.
They're almost synonymous with the 80s. So if you're trying to, you know, survive a backlash against the 80s, and you're the freaking figurehead band of the 80s, that must be a very difficult place to be. But
very difficult.
That has a happy ending, people, because after they survived that 90s time period, early 2000s, people realized, oh, Def Leppard's awesome. Why don't we listen to Def Leppard?
Yeah, right. Well, they just completed a really successful world tour, didn't they?
They're went out with arguably bigger now than they've ever been. You know what I mean? That's crazy. And they put out the last few albums, even though they're a much older band, have been really solid albums.
Yeah, you know, Phil Collen is a solid, underrated guitar player.
Let me tell you. Vivian Campbell's in that band too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
in the band too.
And then Savage and Joe Elliott are both great songwriters. Man.
Absolutely.
I mean, so I think that Def Leppard is that last album they put out. I think is really great. Actually, I've had a lot of good stuff on it. You know, they're never going to be able to be the pop band. They're all dudes in their 60s now, so it's not going to be the pop band.
Yeah, I like how I think Def Leppard is aged well.
Yeah, they definitely have, and they had the potential to not age well.
Yeah,
they really did, but they really did. And I think again, it comes down to the songs. I think the reason that band was able to weather all those weird times is because of the fact that their songs were so strong. You know, the reason that they're headlining stadiums still is because their songs are so strong. And Journey, same thing. You know, the songs are so strong. You know what I mean?
So are you up on all the like fallout with, I guess, Avenged Sevenfold and Journey? Like, I guess Journey's lead vocalist, Arnell, like he had like a rough night or something. Like,
what does Avenged Sevenfold have to do with that, though?
Okay, so Neil Schon released a statement saying that
Sinister Gates is a douche or something.
Well, yeah, he said something about like Avenged Sevenfold messed with the levels on the PA or something like that. Like the mix was bad. So
was this like a festival appearance where they?
Yeah, like they were like on like a Journey went on like right after Avenged Sevenfold or something. And I mean, I could be getting some of these details wrong, but I think the gist of it is that,
dude, if Avenged Sevenfold did that, that's fucking nonsense.
Well, you know, like well, it would have had to like how could Avenged Sevenfold themselves have done anything? It's the sound guy.
I would assume it's the sound guy. I'm going to assume Germany has their own sound guy. I mean, they're not just using whoever's running the
floor. That's why it doesn't hold. So, okay, so there's footage of Arnell singing, like, Don't Stop Believin', but, like, you know, for some of the high notes, like, he goes flat. Like, his voice is just, it's wearing out.
Yeah.
Like, in that moment.
As much as we think of Arnell as, like, the young guy, he's, like, 56 years old. He's not like this,
so, he's probably done a bunch of dates that week, and, his voice just got tired. That happens.
We're also talking about trying to sing some of the most iconic music ever, with some of the most challenging vocal parts ever, by the greatest singers who ever lived. You know what I mean?
I'll listen to that over auto-tune any day.
Yep, that's real.
Right? It's human, right?
Unlike the grunge thing, that's real, man.
Exactly.
It's real, you know. Yeah, I heard that it was like that stuff. He had like a bad show. Who cares? He had a bad show. Everyone has a bad show.
Yeah. So Neil Schon said that
Stephen Piercy called and said, "Here, hold my beer."
So Neil Schon, in an attempt to
defend Arnell, right?
Well, really to avenge Arnell.
He only got sixfold though. That's why it failed.
You're right. Yes, he needs to avenge Arnell eightfold. So he said that Arnell. I think it was his idea was that Arnell was straining because the levels on everything else were like way too loud, so he couldn't hear himself or something.
You know what's funny? Along those lines, not to derail the podcast too much.
That's all of it. Yeah.
But I remember Peter Frampton had some stuff to say about Megadeth. I guess they played the same venue in Brazil or something like that, and I guess he said that Megadeth just like damaged the stage or something like that, and that's why he had that as crew. You know, there's some dust up between. I never imagined in my life I'd see a day where Peter Frampton and Dave Mustaine are going at each other on social
Dude,
media.
this is like kind of a fun. I know we still need to do our brackets thing, but maybe just like classic band deathmatch.
I mean. What? Why does Peter Frampton even know who Dave Mustaine is? That's like that seems weird to me. Like that's weird to me that they would have arguments with each other.
Maybe this is how we can harness the power of AI, right? We could enter in a prompt like, you know, street fight between Peter Frampton and Megadeth. Fight! Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, maybe it's so fun.
Frampton, finish him.
Okay, so I would say though, of all the bands we just talked about, Def Leppard definitely got a rebound. They kind of came back, and at least from a live performance and popularity standpoint, they've definitely rebounded back to where they were. But I think that, you know, from the making music, I mean, maybe that's just a result of age too. Maybe you just after you hit like 56, 60 years old, you got millions in the bank. It's impossible to channel that same like 23-year-old.
We'll still be podcasting when we get there, so we'll tell everybody how it feels.
You guys just need to know it's gonna be great. Whatever we do at that time, it's gonna be the greatest ever.
When we're billionaires in our 50s and 60s, we'll still be doing this podcast, folks. So stay tuned, everybody.
That's why I'm making sure I vote for people who keep taxes low, so that I'm a billionaire.
so stay tuned, everybody, and please go to our GoFundMe page.
Make our dreams come true.
Yeah,
people.
Right.
Make it happen.
If you want to find out how Scott and I feel as, you know, 50, 60-something-year-old
have to join our membership side. You know, we have a paywall somewhere.
Visit us on our Patreon.
You know, the sad thing is
make Scott and Ryan rich.
I actually went and hired a contractor to build our paywall until I realized that's not how it works. And I was like, oh, damn it.
Oh, wah, wah.
All right, that's it for today,
that's
guys.
Funny. Oh, well, one last.
Oh, he's got one more? Okay, yeah.
No, well, so just, you mentioned Wall-E, okay?
Yes,
so,
the Pixar movie, yes.
So there's another sign of the apocalypse out there. Here's the social activism portion of today's program.
Wait, there's a social activism portion to our program?
Yes, I just invented it.
Okay,
it's starting now.
The first annual.
This is a vote with your wallet thing. Okay. So you may or may not know. So Francis Ford Coppola just
you're talking about Megalopolis?
Yep. He just released Megalopolis. Okay. I haven't seen it yet. I plan on seeing it. Right. But like last weekend was I hope I have time to go see it. I hope it doesn't get pulled from theaters. So he financed the whole thing with his own money, right? Probably money from the winery.
Winery, yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
I think the number came in at, I might be wrong, but I think like 157 million. I don't know. So that maybe I'm off. So whatever. It costs a lot of money.
Yeah, self-financed. Yeah.
Yeah, self-financed, right? Because he wanted to create like an actual work of art, right? Like no compromises, okay? And I've read it's pretty wacky, but I'm totally interested in seeing it, okay?
Well, Francis Ford Coppola is one of the great filmmakers of all time.
Yeah.
Undeniably. I mean,
and he's only going to be around like we already lost Kubrick.
Yeah.
You know, he's only going to be around
mid-80s now, like 85 or something like that.
He's got to be like early 80s maybe.
Okay.
You know, late 70s, early 80s, something like that.
He's definitely going for that crazed millionaire thing. That's good. I got to give that respect.
And you know what? Yeah, I don't think he's quite Howard Hughes. Like, pissing in bottles in the house and stuff. But yeah, so it got crushed at the box office this last weekend.
Yeah, it went like $4 million, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what the number one movie was this last weekend?
I'm going to guess The Wild Robot.
God damn it.
Yeah.
Yes, stupid fucking cartoon robot crushed at the box office. Like, while an actual work of art.
Okay, here's what I would say. I would definitely reserve judgment on how great of the work of art is till you've seen it. Because just because it's
I'm just saying that it is a work of art.
Filmmaker's uncompromised vision doesn't mean it's worth anything. Though,
I agree, but I mean, you'd think that people would be curious enough to go out.
I should tell you that like Metallica's album with Lou Reed was also an uncompromising artistic vision.
Oh yeah, well I mean, Metallica was
You know what I mean? No, like just because it's like there's no compromise doesn't mean it's good.
No, I agree with you completely.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, like the art that everybody can count on that's uncompromising is Ex Ages.
That's true.
Right, so everybody needs to, and this podcast. Yeah. But
the only thing we compromise is our full power because people aren't ready to see that.
Yeah,
you know that's what it comes down to. You know,
so,
much like Zeus, he would never reveal his full power to people who are mortals. You know what I
mean? So it just bums me out. Francis Ford Coppola releases, it's Francis Ford Coppola.
I respect it on this level too.
You know,
he's like an older dude who's like, "Fuck, I've done all these things. Look how successful I am. I'm not going to listen to your stupid idea.
Right, I don't have to. Yeah,
I'm going to do it myself. You know what I mean? And actually, strangely enough, people don't realize this, but George Lucas did the exact same thing on the Star Wars prequels. He financed them himself. He made whatever the hell he wanted. You know what I mean?
So you're making the point that like just because it's uncompromising doesn't mean it's good. Well, the prequels were fucking horrible.
No, they weren't. I will stand up and fight them.
Horrible.
There's some of the greatest scenes in cinema.
Dude,
in those things. But here's what I will say though.
Anakin, you are breaking my heart. That's actual dialogue.
You have to recognize though that he did the same thing. He's like, okay, I'm going to self-finance this stuff. I'm not going to listen to your studio notes. You know what I mean? And if you look at like something like Rise of Skywalker, the most recent sequel trilogy movie, it's the exact opposite. It's like everything. It's like all studio notes. Like every line got changed and touched by the 15 different hands of different executives.
That's the last one, right? Where we find out that Palpatine actually is alive or a clone or some bullshit. There's been a start. Yeah, that movie was.
But the
horrible.
point I'm trying to make though is that movie's got, you can see the hands of all the different executives who are like, well, we got to change this, we got to do this, we got to make that happen. Here's what the focus group tells us. So you have the contrasting two.
You've got two different types of garbage. You've got the prequels.
I don't agree with that, but we have no time to get into
just the dialogue. Anakin, you are breaking my heart.
What follows after that is the greatest lightsaber fight in the history of cinema. So that is,
then Revenge of the Sith.
That was Revenge of the Sith.
She has lost the will to live. I'm just delivering the dialogue exactly as it was delivered.
All I'm saying is the dialogue isn't what that's about. That it's the storyline and it's the scenes that right after that the Anakin Obi-Wan battle is like insane.
I did enjoy that.
That's insanely great. So
when that movie came out, my buddy's dad got a like a pirated DVD. And so, like,
oh my god, is it the guy with the pirate hat? Like the
parrot
right,
with the parrot, yeah.
So you literally have to go to a pirate to get it, because that's how that works.
So I saw Revenge of the Sith. Like, I'll admit it, don't sue me, Disney, but yeah, I watched a pirated copy about a month before it was released.
Dude, I mean, I remember that was a trip, because I remember when I was dating my ex-wife, I remember going to see episode 2 with her in 2002. And then when that came out in 2005, I had already had my daughter. My daughter was born like in February that year. So I remember going to see that movie in the theater thinking, look at how much has changed in the last like 5 years. Like, since episode 1 came out to now, like, holy crap, I'm a father now. I remember thinking like, this is crazy. You know what I mean? I was just this geeky kid waiting in line to see Star Wars episode 1 just a couple years ago. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird how that worked. But yeah, I mean, I kind of marked my time with that in a lot of ways. But no, I do not stand by that idea that you said it's not great. But here's the point I'm trying to make though is I respect it in the same way, in the sense that he's like, I'm super successful. I don't need to listen to you, and I'm not going to.
Uncompromising, you know what I mean? Vision. Yeah, I respect that, definitely.
But that, and arguably, episode 1 from Star Wars was super divisive. No one could argue that.
Phantom Menace was trash.
Well, it was not. That's not. But it's. I will say
Pod racers.
This is what I'm trying to say, though. That was super divisive. In much the same way that Megalopolis is super divisive. Like, there's like a 50% Rotten Tomatoes. So,
yeah, well, I mean, it'll be divisive, but I mean, Megalopolis isn't trying to be a children's movie.
Well, I mean,
it's getting crushed by a stupid cartoon robot.
Children's movie doesn't mean it's bad, though. There's definitely movies that...
I beg to differ. I think children's movie does mean that it is bad.
I can tell you 1,000% that it's not true. That is definitely not true. So anyway, on that happy note,
everyone go see Megalopolis.
Everyone right now is like cowering, like, Mom and Dad are fighting. What's happening?
Yeah,
right. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Rocky Guitar Confidential podcast with Ryan and Scott. Please make sure to check out our website at www.xaegisband.com. Ryan, what's that number? What's that again?
That's www.exaegisband.com.
There you'll find links to all of our social media, so please make sure to follow us on the socials, on Twitter and Instagram and X. Like Twitter and X are the same thing. Never mind. So all of our social medias, follow us on that. Send happy thoughts and happy vibes our way, and then you can even do comments and stuff. And please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast.
Thanks.
All right. See you next week. Bye.
Peace.